So, a fresh new week has arrived, and here on this channel, that means one thing and one thing only. Every weekend I post an episode of this series we do called Your Take Not Mine, where I turn to you, the viewers, to give me your hottest NBA takes of the week based on what's going on at the time, and I then choose my favorite submissions and discuss them in a video. This week, the playoffs have been underway, bringing a ton of ridiculous drama, competitive basketball, and hard-fought series in both conferences, so we definitely have plenty to discuss. In order to submit your takes, I make a community post on either the day of or the day before the video, similar to the one that you see on your screen now, so if you want a chance to be featured in a future episode, be sure to stay on the lookout for that. Before we start though, I want to thank PrizePicks for sponsoring today's video. PrizePicks is a skill-based, real money daily fantasy sports game where you select 2 to 6 players and guess if they will hit more or less than their projection, and if you get it right, you can win. Plus, with their new Demons and Goblins lines, you can win up to 100 times your original lineup. Obviously, we're all basketball fans here, but PrizePicks has almost every sport you can think of available to choose from and play. To add to the fun, they also offer frequent bonuses, discounts, and weekly promotions, such as Taco Tuesday and Flex Friday, plus so many more specialty free spaces to watch for throughout the year, so you don't want to miss those. For today's slate of games, I'm going with Pascal Siakam to score fewer than 25.5 points, Anthony Edwards to make over 2.5 threes, and Rudy Gobert to score over 13.5 points in this week's lineup. To sign up, go down to the link in the description of this video and use promo code REFERENCE when you sign up to get a deposit match bonus of up to $100. Once again, thank you to PrizePicks for sponsoring the video. Now let's get back to the topic at hand. The first take we'll be discussing today comes to us from Bed, and he says that the Suns already might need to tear their roster down after just a year and a half together, because they've built a video game type roster that just doesn't work in real life. At the time I'm making this video, I don't think there has been any bigger disappointment than the Phoenix Suns in the entire postseason. Before the year began, they were one of the most popular picks by fans and analysts alike to win the finals because they had just traded for Kevin Durant last season and followed it up by also trading for Bradley Beal and forming the most talented big three on paper. I'm not going to sit here and pretend that there was never any concern about this team's roster makeup at the time, because there definitely was, but for the most part, a deep playoff run was expected at minimum from this team. Right now, the Suns find themselves down 3-0 in the first round series against the Minnesota Timberwolves on the brink of elimination, and none of the 3 games were really all that close, losing by double digits in all 3 of those games. They lack structure, they can't generate easy looks for themselves, their defense is a porous mess, and while it's not impossible to make a comeback, it's more than likely that their season is about to end in the worst way possible, a sweep. The questions running through everyone's minds now are, how did they get themselves into this situation, and where do they go from here? And there aren't really any easy answers to that second one. As for how they got here, they serve as a monumental lesson for the rest of the league to learn from. Talent is not the only recipe for success, and fit matters a hell of a lot more. All 3 of the Suns' big 3 of Durant, Booker, and Beal are score-first shot creators that need the ball in their hands a good amount to be their most effective. None of those 3 players are that good on defense, the rest of the roster had pretty poor depth compared to other playoff teams, and they didn't even have a real point guard anywhere in their rotation, so the players who naturally play with a score-first mentality were forced into a point guard role that they aren't suited for, and their playmaking struggles have been on display all year, as the playoff team that has committed the most turnovers per game in the regular season, and those same turnover problems have carried into the playoffs. As for where they go from here, they don't have that many options. They're over the cap already with 3 behemoth contracts clogging up their payroll, and they barely have any draft picks left to shell out in trades that could help them add talent to get them out of this hole. This isn't what Suns fans will want to hear, but their only 2 options are to either ride it out with this trio, hoping to find an impactful point guard on the market that will sign for a minimum contract, or they can blow it up and try to recoup assets to build a better future. Either way, it's pretty bleak, but that's what happens when you ignore basic necessities of building a basketball team in order to build a squad that would have been unstoppable on NBA 2K19. The next take we'll be discussing today comes to us from Cam, and he says that the Magic would be championship contenders with either Klay Thompson or Trae Young on their team right now. The Magic have made the playoffs for the first time since they began their rebuild, and so far they're showing the world they're not afraid of the moment. They just tied their series up at 2 games apiece with the Cleveland Cavaliers, and have stolen the momentum back behind some dominant defense, making life incredibly difficult for Cleveland's scorers, holding Donovan Mitchell to under 20 points in each of their wins, and winning by a combined 61 points over their last 2 games. It's a great first step back in the right direction to get to the top, and they have the capability of getting aggressive this offseason to improve even further, which is where the speculation is coming from with this take and the names involved. Offensively, they still need more firepower to contend with the best of the best, and Trae Young and Klay Thompson are guys who have made a name for themselves as shooters and playmakers for years, who also both happen to potentially be available this summer. Klay Thompson is a free agent with his future in Golden State up in the air, and all signs lately point to Trae Young being available on the trade block. And while both will have plenty of suitors, the Magic makes sense as an under-the-radar landing spot for both. With Klay, I will say that if I were the Magic, I would stay far away. He's nowhere close to what he once was on either end, his shot comes and goes way too frequently, with his decision-making getting worse every year, and in order to actually attract him to Orlando in the first place, it would probably require an overpay that could halt a lot of the momentum they've been building. Trae Young is much closer to what they need, as he can almost single-handedly elevate his teams to being one of the top-ranked offenses, and the Magic have such a strong defensive identity already established that they're arguably better suited than anyone else to cover up Trae Young's defensive limitations. One name I'll also throw out there that I like the idea of Orlando getting is Paul George, who is also a free agent this summer, and not only would he be a major boost to their offense, but he also fits a position of need and fits into what they're building on defense. Convincing him to leave LA for Orlando may be the hard part, but fit-wise, he's got to be top of their list. And finally, the last take we'll be discussing today comes to us from Goof, and he says that Anthony Edwards will be better than Jason Tatum soon if he's not better already. The NBA has a pretty established set of players locked into the superstar tier of talent at the top, and for the last couple of years, Jason Tatum has been the guy right on the fringe of that group. His Celtics teams have been a juggernaut, and he's been their leading scorer, but they have yet to get over that championship hump. Tatum has definitely had some truly elite showings on the big stage, but he's also not under the same kind of pressure that other superstars are under because the team around him is consistently good enough to pick him up on an off night, and the same cannot be said about other superstars. This may sound controversial, but I've believed for a while now that Tatum has the easiest job of any superstar caliber player in the league, because the Celtics can consistently win games regardless of whether he shoots well or not, with how well built they are top to bottom. Anthony Edwards, for example, is starting to experience firsthand what comes with superstar expectations on a top contending team, and is much more instrumental to the success of the Timberwolves because of it. The Wolves are an absolutely dominant defensive group, but for them to be able to outscore their opposition, Edwards needs to have a big night. The other players around him do their jobs, but they look to Edwards to set the tone and make things happen. Right now, as we speak, I don't think Edwards has the same resume to surpass Tatum in these talks, but every game he's looking more and more confident and hungry, and the Wolves could prove a lot of people wrong with a deep run this year. And with that being said, that's all I have for you today. Make sure to like the video, subscribe to the channel, and comment down below what you think about the takes discussed. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you all next time.